Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Who breaks out for this Oklahoma Sooners program heading into 2025? This is a fun program to have this conversation for because there's a lot of names that you could go ahead and go with. We're not going to talk about the transfer portal additions. We're not going to talk about the true freshmen. We're going to focus on some guys that you saw some really good things from in the 2024 year that I think really put it together going into 2025. A lot of names we could brought up. Let it fly in the comments section with you. This is an opportunity for really all of us to call our shot, put our flagpole in the ground, for lack of better terms, in terms of who are our guys heading into the 2025 year. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into you're probably not going to find anybody across the country that's higher than I am on Ivan Carreon heading into 2025. He reminds me of Mike Evans. And we said this when Ivan Carreon flipped his commitment from Texas Tech to Oklahoma coming out of high school. I still believe that going into 2025, that size speed combination is just different with Ivan Carreon. It is a next level catch radius. And the thing I love about his game the most is he's not only a contested catch kind of guy. I mean, he was sixth place in the 110-meter hurdles coming out of high school in the state of Texas. This is a guy that can run for the size. I think he can work the middle of the field extremely well. But I think most importantly, he's just that safety blanket, big bodied pass catcher, almost a pseudo tight end that's playing outside on the boundary that you can go use to move the chains on. And a guy that really showed what I think he can do in 2025 in that bowl game against Navy, where look, there's just not a lot of defensive backs that are either going to have the size or the speed to deal with what Ivan Carreon brings to the table. You're looking at who is going to step up in the Oklahoma wide receiver room going into 2025. To me, it's Ivan Carreon. And then we're going to go to the second breakout player. And again, I know I'm stretching it for breakout players, but let's just be real about it. Deion Burks hasn't really broken out yet, right? He was very solid at Purdue in a horrible, horrible offense. Then he comes to Oklahoma in 2024, obviously gets banged up, but that offense wasn't exactly ideal for a guy like Deion Burks too. Going into 2025, this is the best situation that we've seen Deion Burks in, with John Mateer at quarterback, with Ben Arbuckle at the OC spot, manufacturing a lot of space. Look, I don't know if there's a better wide receiver in the country in terms of yards after the catch than Deion Burks. Not only does he absolutely burn, he's kind of built like a running back, like 5'9", 190, thick lower half. You got the quarterback play. I think you have an offensive system with Ben Arbuckle coming in that perfectly fits what Deion Burks can do. And then you look at John Mateer. Where did he like to go with the football during his time in Washington State? Yeah, the slot wide receivers. And the Deion Burks, that the John Mateer Deion Burks combination, that wide receiver one, quarterback one duo, it's always important for any offense that wants to be great. It could be one of the better quarterback wide receiver duos that we see in the country going into 2025. I'm a huge fan of Deion Burks. I think we all know how good of a football player he is. To me, going into 2025, he's finally in a situation that is going to allow him to be the difference maker that we know he can be. Going to my next one on the list, and again, another guy that, kind of broke out in 2024. Look, even Oklahoma fans that followed this team really closely, if I were to ask you, hey, who led the team last year in quarterback hurries? Gracen Halton would probably not be the first one that comes to mind. Yeah, he was that guy. I mean, had more quarterback hurries than R. Mason Thomas, had more quarterback hurries than Ethan Downs. He was a menace on the inside of that defensive line. One of the things that I love about Oklahoma's defensive line is you have your run stoppers, right? Jaden Jackson, who was elite as a true freshman, Dominic Williams. Those are the guys that on those first and second downs, they're going to stop the run. And you're going to get teams into a lot of third and longs. That's when Gracen Halton comes in. There's just not many defensive linemen on the inside that rush the passer better than Gracen Halton. He's a little bit shorter. He's a little bit smaller, elite first step, plays with good leverage, knows what he's doing from a technical standpoint as well, getting off blocks. Again, you could argue that he broke out in 2024. I think he really makes his presence and becomes a bigger name in college football going into 2025. A guy that's just gotten better and better during his time with Oklahoma. And the next one on the list is a very, very similar kind of guy in Kip Lewis. Better and better as the season went on, or as his career has gone on with Oklahoma. He's going to have to be the guy for Oklahoma in the 2025 year. A hyper athletic linebacker. He is in my opinion, personally, like the ideal linebacker that you want in this modern era of college football. We talk about it all the time. The sport is changing on the offensive side of the football. Teams are going to try to get you out in space and tack you from a speed standpoint. We're going to get our playmakers the ball in space, go tackle them, go run and chase and tackle. Are there many backers who are better in the run and chase than Kip Lewis? And his ability to close the distance and go find ball carriers, go sideline to sideline, tackle running backs in the flat, carry tight ends up the seam. The thing with Kip Lewis is we always knew he was that hyper athletic backer. Needed him to put on some weight. He did so. And then I think secondly, it's coming together between the ears more. You can tell he's been playing right beside a guy like Danny Stutzman in the last couple of years. He's gotten better from a mental side of things too. And so you start combining, freaky athlete with the guy that is starting to understand the linebacker position better and developing those instincts. Yeah, Kip Lewis was very solid in 2023. Clearly took a step in 2024. We are looking for the Danny Stutzman replacement in 2025. And look, you can't just replace a guy like Danny Stutzman, one of the best linebackers we saw in college football the last couple of years. If there's going to be someone on this team that I think comes close to it, I think it's going to be Kip Lewis. And you could throw in a guy like Kobe McKenzie too. I'm actually a really big fan of what Oklahoma has at linebacker, really some athletic cats. Kip Lewis would be my pick to really emerge as the leader of the defense for Oklahoma in 2025. Last one on the list, and this might be one of the more exciting storylines on the defensive side of the football, is what does PJ Adebawore look like going into year 3? We knew that he wasn't going to be an instant impact guy. And that's just the kind of, you see a lot of different top 10 national recruits. Some guys are ready to step on a football field and dominate immediately. Some guys are more projection. PJ was projection. You look at the traits. 10-inch hands, 7-foot wingspan, hyper athlete coming out of high school. He's put on the weight. You can. I think the probably the most frustrating thing is you probably didn't see the year 1 to year 2 step that I think a lot of Oklahoma fans were hoping. Very similar to his older brother who played at Northwestern, who was also a non-factor this first 2 years at Northwestern, then became a dominant factor the last couple of years of his career. Can that be PJ too going into 2024? If it's going to click for PJ, you feel like it's going to click in the 2025 year. If you get it to click with him and you have a guy like our Mason Thomas, who I think can be an elite pass rusher, Marvin Jones as well coming in from Florida State, this Oklahoma pass rush combined with guys like Gracen Halton, potentially David Stone on the inside, this can be an elite pass rush. And that's where it starts. When you ask me, hey, what is the most important thing you look for when you're evaluating defenses in the preseason? Can you get after the passer? If you can get after the passer, if you can dominate the game in the front seven, stop the run, get after the passer, very hard for teams to move the football on you. Even if you do have some question marks in the secondary. You go back to Georgia in 2021 and 2022, they had question marks in the secondary. Kirby Smart was very vocal that they had question marks in the secondary. Well, with guys like Jordan Davis, Nolan Smith, and Jalen Carter, those question marks in the secondary didn't really matter because teams just couldn't pass protect. Can Oklahoma's defensive line be that kind of unit in 2025? If they are that unit, you do see a step from a guy like PJ Adebawore, who I think can take that step. We knew it wasn't going to be year 1. I think we were hoping we'd see some more flashes in year 2. Can it be year 3 for him? Because if it does click and that light bulb comes on, he can go from, I'll make this comp actually. As a Michigan fan myself, David Ajabo, very, very kind of similar probably. Like David Ajabo hadn't played much football, was a freaky athlete coming out of high school. You did not hear from him the first 24 months he was on campus for Michigan. And then all of a sudden, in the 2022 season, he's one of the best pass rushers in the country. I would not be surprised if it was like, hey, we haven't really seen a ton from PJ the first 2 years, and then all of a sudden he's wrecking games. If that happens, you talk about ceilings for Oklahoma. PJ being a guy is part of that ceiling and what that ceiling looks like. Those are my 5 names. I had Jaden Jackson broke out last year. I wouldn't consider him a breakout guy. He kind of emerged as an absolute dude for Oklahoma on the inside of the defensive line. I think the big question is who's going to break out on the offensive line. Because if you get that, it's a team that checks a lot of boxes, but we need to see that offensive line take that step. We'll sign out on that. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. Let it fly in the comment section. Who do you got a good feel about that's going to break out in 2025? We'll talk to y'all later.